Leo watches his colleague receive praise. His smile activates within 200 milliseconds. The timing is perfect. The warmth reaches his eyes. He speaks generous words that sound rehearsed because they are. Leo has practiced this performance. The practice has made it automatic. This is not envy in the classical sense. Envy wants what another possesses. The mechanism is more sophisticated. It wants the appearance of not wanting, while the brain calculates relative position continuously. The jealous competitor does not confront. They accompany. They move through parallel tracks, never intersecting directly. Every achievement of the target is met with invisible calibration. The calibration happens below conscious awareness. Leo leaves the room and cannot name his own state. He feels restless, then hungry, then tired. The mechanism has already diverted the signal. Direct awareness of jealousy would threaten his self-concept. The brain protects the concept by fragmenting the experience. Most observers miss the pattern. The competitor appears supportive. They ask interested questions. They remember details. The performance of goodwill is impeccable. Only the timing of their questions reveals the machinery. They ask after your success, not before. They gather intelligence, not to celebrate, but to calculate trajectory. The comparison happens in microseconds. The result is stored as effect, not thought. Leo has been this way since university. He does not experience himself as competitive. He experiences himself as interested in people. The interest is real. Its function is hidden. To encounter this mechanism is to feel subtly diminished without knowing why. The competitor extracts status through proximity. They borrow your light to locate their own shadow. The intelligence being tested is whether you can detect the extraction before it becomes extraction. The mechanism is ancient. It predates language. It operates in social mammals everywhere. Only humans have learned to disguise it as friendship. Sarah is 6 years old. Her mother praises her cousin's drawing. The sensation arrives before she has words for it. Heat in the chest. Tension in the jaw. The brain identifies threat. The threat is not physical. It is positional. Sarah's status has shifted relative to another. Children are acute status detectors. Their survival depends on it. Sarah notes that attention is finite. When it flows elsewhere, she experiences something like cold. The cold is not temperature. It is neurological alarm. The mechanism forms through comparison, not through deprivation. Sarah has enough. The cousin's praise does not reduce her resources. Yet the brain calculates as if it does. This is the zero-sum architecture of early socialization. Parents often miss the formation. They see normal sibling rivalry. They see healthy competition. What they see is the mechanism installing itself. Sarah learns to hide the alarm. The hiding becomes automatic. By age 10, she has developed sophisticated compensation. She praises others before they can praise themselves. She deflects attention strategically. The behavior looks like generosity. The function is protection. The brain wires the pattern through repetition. Each successful deflection reinforces the pathway. Sarah does not experience the strategy as strategy. She experiences it as personality. She is supportive. She is not jealous. The social reward is immediate. Adults prefer children who appear unthreatened by others' success. Sarah receives approval for her suppression. The approval strengthens the suppression. The mechanism becomes invisible to its operator. She enters adolescence with a split system. Consciously, she celebrates friends' achievements. Unconsciously, her brain tracks every comparison point. The tracking generates stress she cannot locate. She attributes it to hormones, to school pressure, to vague anxiety. The mechanism is now fully operational. It will run for decades. Sarah will select friends she can outperform. She will sabotage relationships where the comparison becomes unfavorable. She will not know she is doing this. The not knowing is the design.
If this is already making sense to you, it means you're starting to notice patterns most people never see. Subscribe, and let's keep exploring how the mind really works. Now, this is where things start to get uncomfortable.
Marcus hears about his friend's promotion before he sees the friend. His response is already generating. The smile assembles itself. The words of congratulations arrange in optimal order. The hug duration is calibrated. All of this happens before conscious processing begins. The mechanism operates faster than intention. This is its protection. If Marcus could perceive the construction of his performance, he might perceive its function. The speed prevents the perception. Social encounters trigger the system automatically. The comparison happens in the first millisecond of recognition. Where does this person stand relative to me? The calculation is complete before the handshake ends. Marcus experiences the result as vague sensation, not thought. Elevation or deflation. Warmth or cold. These effects guide his subsequent behavior without his knowledge. He is not choosing his responses. The mechanism is choosing. The brain conserves energy through this automation. Conscious jealousy management would exhaust the system. The unconscious version runs continuously in background. Marcus can function. Marcus can perform. Marcus cannot perceive. Memory becomes unreliable. Marcus recalls himself as genuinely happy for others. The recall is constructed to match his self-concept. The actual moments, micro-expressions of tension, withdrawals of attention, are edited from the record. The mechanism generates its own camouflage. It produces behaviors that appear opposite to jealousy. Excessive praise. Defensive modesty. Sudden interest in unrelated topics. Each response is correct. Each response conceals. To encounter Marcus is to encounter someone who does not know he is competing. The competition happens in neural circuitry he cannot access. His conscious experience is of being a good friend. The unconscious experience is continuous threat assessment. The intelligence being tested is whether you can detect the machinery beneath the warmth. Most cannot. The warmth is real enough. Only the timing is wrong. Only the proportion is slightly off. Only the eyes check for witnesses. Elena has maintained the friendship for 15 years. The mechanism has delivered again. She knows her rival's vulnerabilities, her insecurities, her failures. This knowledge is not used directly. It is used for calibration. Elena knows exactly where she stands. The hidden payoff is not victory. Victory would end the game. The hidden payoff is continuous positioning. The mechanism maintains a relationship that provides permanent reference point. Without the rival, Elena would lose her coordinates. The brain maintains what provides orientation. Elena's self-concept is constructed through contrast. She is not successful in absolute terms. She is successful relative to this specific other. The relative success feels like safety. If you've noticed this pattern in your own life, describe the moment it became clear. Someone reading may recognize themselves. Social economics reinforce the pattern. Elena's rival believes they are close friends. The belief provides access. Access provides information. Information provides advantage. The advantage is never deployed overtly. Overt deployment would expose the mechanism. The brain also maintains the mechanism through identity foreclosure. Elena cannot imagine who she would be without this specific relationship. The thought experiments collapse. The self-concept has incorporated the rivalry. To lose the rival feels like death. Cognitive dissonance resolves in favor of continuation. Evidence that the friendship is unhealthy is reinterpreted as evidence that Elena needs to try harder. She works on her generosity. She works on her support. The work is real. Its function is hidden. The maintenance cost is paid in installments. Each celebration of her rival's success requires suppression of effect. Each suppression leaves residue. The residue accumulates as somatic symptom, as depression, as mysterious exhaustion. The brain maintains what the brain believes protects. The belief is ancient. The protection is obsolete. The mechanism continues, a navigation system guiding through waters that no longer threaten. David is 52. He has not experienced unqualified joy for another person since childhood. The mechanism has completed its colonization. What began as protective comparison has become indistinguishable from self. David does not compete with rivals. David is the competition, continuously, with no finish line. The solidification happens gradually enough to escape detection. Each year, the gap between performance and awareness narrows. By middle age, there is no gap. The theater has become the architecture. There is no outside. David's colleagues describe him as driven and highly motivated. His friends describe him as always striving. He describes himself as ambitious, goal-oriented, or hardworking. The vocabulary conceals the mechanism from its operator. Identity foreclosure completes when the individual cannot answer the question, "Who are you without your rival?" David has tried. The meditation retreats, the solo achievements, the new friendships. Each attempt is captured and compared. The mechanism absorbs success itself. The brain has rewritten autobiographical memory to support the solidified identity. David remembers healthy competition that was never healthy. He constructs narratives of friendly rivalry to explain his present isolation. The construction feels like recollection. Social proof reinforces the foreclosure. David's performance has succeeded by external metrics. To question the mechanism now is to question every achievement, every relationship, every identity claim. The cost of awareness has become prohibitive. The individual becomes the curator of his own mythology. David maintains careful control over which rivals he acknowledges. The segmentation that began in childhood has achieved perfect compartmentalization. No single person knows the complete inventory of his comparisons. This is not simple competitiveness. This is identity with no core. David experiences himself as coherent because the mechanism provides coherence. The observer who detects the seams detects something David cannot perceive himself. The role has eaten the actor. The mask has grown into the face. David will age, decline, die as the performance of a person who once might have been real. The mechanism ensures he will never know the difference. Rachel walks through her rival's new home. She stands in the kitchen for the appropriate duration. Her congratulations are warm, specific, timely. Rachel notes the countertops, the light fixtures, the square footage. Each detail is processed for relative value. The processing happens below conscious awareness. The result is effect, not assessment. The mechanism filters all perception through its operational requirements. Rachel does not see her rival's success. She sees her rival's success as social situation continuously. Every stimulus is processed for position before it is processed for content. This filtering creates a specific blindness. Rachel cannot detect genuine happiness in others because her detection system has been repurposed. She scans for status markers, not authentic presence. She is impressed by displays and confused by quiet satisfaction. The world becomes a ledger. Rachel assumes others are comparing as she is comparing. She projects the mechanism outward. Authentic people scan as naive or lacking ambition. Their uncalibrated response is read as error. Memory reconstructs through the same filter. Rachel recalls events as relative outcomes, not experiences. The party was better than mine. The vacation was less impressive than described. The emotional content of either remains unavailable for review. If you've noticed this pattern in your own life, describe the moment it became clear. Someone reading may recognize themselves. The mechanism shapes time perception itself. Rachel's years feel abbreviated because they were compared, not lived. She has no distinct memories of her 30s, only a general sense of favorable positioning. The brain conserves resources by not encoding the automated. Perception of self becomes similarly abstract. Rachel knows her achievements by their relative value, not their intrinsic worth. She wants what keeps her ahead. The wanting itself is indistinguishable from the fear of falling behind. To meet Rachel is to encounter a perceptual system that cannot recognize you. Only your position on her internal ladder is visible. The intelligence being tested is whether you can maintain your own perception despite her projection. Most adjust. Most become what she needs to measure against. The world she inhabits is populated by her own assumptions. The mechanism has built a reality that confirms its necessity. Rachel is alone in a crowd of her own generated comparisons. The loneliness does not register as loneliness. It registers as drive. Thomas sits in his car after a friend's wedding. The words competition and rivalry have been spoken in therapy. Something shifts. Not resolution. Not healing. Only perspective. For the first time, Thomas perceives the mechanism as mechanism. The automation reveals itself as automation. The experience is not liberating. It is vertiginous. Awareness does not stop the performance. The performance continues while Thomas watches it continue. He generates appropriate celebratory responses while observing the generation. The double consciousness is exhausting in a new way. What changes is the quality of attention. Thomas begins to notice the moments before the comparison loads. The microsecond of assessment, the subtle muscular tension. These intervals were previously invisible. Now they demand acknowledgement. The brain resists this awareness. It generates explanations. Thomas is ambitious. He is career-focused. The mechanism protects itself through diagnostic misdirection. To name it as mechanism threatens its operation. Social interactions acquire a strange texture. Thomas performs while knowing he performs. The knowing does not grant access to alternative behavior. The performance is still the only available response. Awareness has added a layer, not replaced one. Relationships shift unpredictably. Some people prefer the competitive Thomas. They experience his awareness as coldness, as distance, as lack of engagement. Others sense the new transparency and withdraw, uncomfortable with what they can now perceive. Thomas does not become supportive. He becomes aware of unsupportiveness. These are different conditions. The first requires a self that was never developed. The second requires only observation of what developed instead. The mechanism continues its operation, now under surveillance. Thomas lives in the condition of a prisoner who has mapped the prison but cannot escape it. The mapping itself becomes the new reality. He watches himself compare. He cannot stop the watching. The surveillance creates a specific fatigue. Thomas is tired of himself. He is tired of the watching. He is tired of the tiredness. Each layer of awareness adds weight without removing the original burden. He continues to attend weddings. He continues to generate warmth. The warmth is now accompanied by the knowledge of its construction. The knowledge does not prevent the construction. It only makes the construction lonelier. Margaret has known about the mechanism for 11 years. The knowledge has not dissolved it. She wakes, compares, observes the comparison, sleeps. The loop is stable. The awareness has been incorporated into the automation itself. She is now performing self-awareness. The mechanism adapts to detection. It generates appropriate humility at appropriate intervals. Margaret shares her insights about her own competitiveness with precisely calibrated timing. The confession becomes the most sophisticated performance. Therapy becomes another stage. The language of psychology provides new material. Margaret speaks of scarcity mindset, of inner child, of attachment patterns. The vocabulary is accurate. Its deployment is still automatic. Relationships with aware people create complex feedback systems. Two individuals, both observing their own comparisons, generate interactions of unprecedented density. Nothing is spontaneous. Everything is meta-commentary on the lack of spontaneity. The loop sustains itself through periodic crises. Margaret occasionally attempts to break through, to be genuinely happy for others. These attempts are themselves performed. The desperation is genuine. The expression of desperation is calibrated. Age brings a specific resignation. The mechanism has operated for decades. The cost of dismantling it exceeds the cost of maintenance. Margaret settles into permanent observation of her own imprisonment. The settling is also performed. The quiet loop is not suffering. It is not peace. It is the hum of a machine that has learned to monitor itself. Margaret's intelligence has been sufficient to detect the pattern. It has not been sufficient to stop it. She has read the books. She has done the workshops. Each intervention becomes new material for the mechanism. The self-help is self-sabotage disguised as growth. The disguise is nearly perfect. Margaret watches younger colleagues discover the same patterns. She recognizes their discovery as her own, repeated. She feels no superiority in this recognition. Only the familiar weight of watching what cannot be stopped. The loop continues. The machinery hums. Margaret ages into the performance of wisdom about the performance. The wisdom is real. Its function is hidden. The hiding is complete. Robert stands at his rival's retirement party. The expected relief does not arrive. Instead, he observes himself selecting from a menu of appropriate responses. The selection happens in milliseconds. He chooses the warm nostalgia variant. It deploys flawlessly. The guests are moved. Robert is unmoved by his own moving of them. This is the confrontation, not with the rival's departure, with the completeness of the mechanism. Robert has spent decades believing in a hidden self. The belief sustained him. Now, in the moment that should release him from competition, he finds only more competition. The final mirror reflects no depth. The surface is the entirety. The rival's absence creates a vacuum. Robert's brain searches for new coordinates. The search is automatic. The mechanism requires reference points. Without them, the self-concept destabilizes. Robert feels panic he cannot locate. He has constructed his entire identity through opposition. The opposition is ending. What remains is not freedom. What remains is the machinery still running, now without function. Identity confrontation is not transformation. It is the acknowledgement that transformation may be impossible. Robert has become what he performed. The performance has consumed the performer. There is no Robert beneath Robert's responses. The party continues around him. He participates perfectly. His participation is the evidence of his condition. He could stop performing, but stopping would itself be a performance of authenticity. The trap has no exit. What remains is not despair. Despair would require a self to despair. What remains is observation without observer. The mechanism watches itself. Robert is the name for this watching. He raises his glass. The toast is appropriate. The timing is perfect. The emptiness behind the perfection is the final mirror. Robert sees it. He cannot look away. He cannot stop seeing. The machinery does not rest. It generates this conclusion as it generates everything else. You have watched the pattern unfold across lives that are not yours, yet somehow familiar. The recognition is itself a test. Your brain must now calculate whether you detected the performance in these words, or whether the performance detected you. PsyHow does not offer resolution. Resolution is another mechanism, another product, another performance of completion. What remains is the open loop, the observation that continues after the video ends. The jealous competitor tests intelligence by forcing it to operate at a deficit. They have rehearsed their generosity. You have not rehearsed your perception. This asymmetry is the test. To pass is not to expose them. It is to perceive the machinery without becoming it. To maintain your own processing speed against their automation. To choose your responses rather than generate them. The loop stays open. The machinery hums. The next interaction begins before you have finished processing the last. PsyHow observes what the mind conceals.